It's the anti-checker.
We will return to your scheduled programming shortly, or we are currently experiencing technical difficulty.
Anal natrach, was betad, doch jeldienle.
Ariel Natris Oris Bazi Bedhead Duchel Dementa. Yeah, I'm not gonna.
What is going on, guys? Michael J. Crawford, the anti-checker here. I tell you, I'm really kind of dreading getting back into this episode of Discovery, and I'll tell you. So for those of you that weren't here last night, no, I did not make it through the episode. We only made it through about the first third of the episode. I apologize for the noisy chair. I have a new chair coming because my other chair broke, and this is just like a temporary thing to sit in. Here's the ironic thing about this episode, is that for the first time that I can recall, the worst thing about the episode is not Michael Burnham. And in fact, the high points of the episode thus far have been the interactions of Michael Burnham and Hipster Spock. And that's, for those of you that haven't been watching Discovery, I have to say that Hipster Spock is a pleasant surprise. Ethan Peck actually does a really good Spock. And it's not the same Spock as Leonard Nimoy, it's obviously, but I actually like his Spock better than Zachary Quinto's Spock. I think it's actually pretty good. Now, so the Burnham Spock interactions have been pretty solid, but the story points in this is so fundamentally flawed as to really fly in the face of all things having to do with what we understand of the Federation, of Starfleet, and all that. And so to kind of sum it up, and for those of you that have not seen the episode, I am not exaggerating, and I am not making this up. This is what we've learned about the hierarchy of Starfleet in the first 15 minutes of this episode, is that all of the Starfleet admirals, when they have any kind of decision to make, they send all of their data on the information they need to make to Control. Control then processes said information and sends it back to the admirals, telling them what to do. And of course, Admiral Cromwell explains that the admirals do have the ability to use their experience and expertise to influence said decision, but that it's highly recommended that they follow the recommendations of Control. So my first thought was, wow, who are these people at Control that are literally running the Federation, right? That was my first thought. But then it gets worse. We find out that Control is not so much a who as a what. Control is not a group of people. It's not some elite cabal of Starfleet officers or political figures. No. It's a computer. So that the entire... all of Starfleet is being run by a computer. Now, that's bad enough. I mean, the funny thing is, that's like the setup to like a half a dozen original series episodes where some computer system is running a society, and Kirk and Spock and the gang have to figure out a way to dethrone said computer. And and then, oh yes, thank you, Thomas. I'll get on Discord in just a minute. And then the icing on the proverbial cake here is the location of the computer is Section 31 headquarters. Which apparently we also find out that Section 31 has star bases. So not only does Section 31 in this reality have a fleet of ships and their fun little happy time badges, but they actually have star bases. So I am completely just blown away. Do they name the other two computers Alt and Delete? That would be funny. I like that a couple of people were talking about Control, as in the top secret organization that uses phones hidden in their shoes. But yeah, so Section 31, but you see Quantum Leaper, Section 31 does have a headquarters. They have a fleet of ships, and they have a supercomputer that is literally running the Federation. So I guess Landru won out after all. Or was it the M5? Or was it the, you know, the mud androids or whatever? Yeah, Section 31 also has an online store. That's probably true. So that's where we're at. At this point in the episode, Burnham and Spock are trying to figure out what's going on with the Red Burst, the Red Angel, all that crap. They're just trying to... And Spock is basically obsessed with the idea of figuring out why did the Red Angel choose him, of all people, to communicate with. And that's actually an interesting question. And that's actually that's where I think the focus of this episode should be. The Section 31 has a tourist kiosk also, except that it's tourist as in the Lore Reloaded version of tourist. See? See? And so so Spock and Burnham are trying to figure out what's up with the Red Angel. Meanwhile, Stamets is working on fixing the sabotaged spore drive, which everybody believes Ash sabotaged, but we all know that it was Robot Chick. Also, side note, Robot Chick is now full-on emotional, has a character, because why the hell not? You know, she never did before. And this is something that also kind of pisses me off. It's like this radical change is that even though we've never delved into Robot Chick up to this point, you know, she's just been kind of standing there and looking like a robot. But she always, up until this point, displayed no emotion whatsoever. She moves like a machine, and she acts like... Everybody was actually kind of confused because they were like, well, wasn't Data the first sentient artificial being in Starfleet? Well, as it turns out, she's not really a robot. She is a cyborg. She was a human who apparently suffered some kind of tragedy, and they turned her into Robot Chick. But up until this point, she's shown no emotion whatsoever, but now all of a sudden she's like Tilly's best friend, and... you know, all chummy, and by the way, just the and this is actually in this episode, just getting a smile from Michael Burnham is an inspiration for Robot Chick. Yes, we do need body cams on the Section 31 agents. I agree, Mr. Miles. And Bird of Prey is here, so everybody hide your children. Bird of Prey likes to eat children, I think, or something like that. And no, Bird, I did not finish the episode last night. By the way, since you're here, Bird of Prey, I might as well show you this. I am working on improving the map for you. There's the pie symbol that you requested. So we do have pie in your map. Oh, I guess I should move my head so you can actually see it. All right, and and then I'm working on moving some of the islands around so that we can get the Pac-Man on there for you too. And so I'm hoping to have that done today or tomorrow. But anyway, let me get back to the crap here. All right, so better mute the audio because I don't want to get DMCA'd. And by the way, last night's stream, I did this, was kind of an experiment in this. I'm leaving the display as is, so you can actually see it behind my gigantic cranium here, the episode playing, and I never got flagged for copyright, and I think it's just because my head blocks so much of the view. So not a problem there. If you do want to hear the audio of the episode, you can go to Discord and go to the live stream simulcast room, and then you can actually hear the episode as well. So let's move on. All right, so on the bridge, Robot Chick and Tilly, because Tilly is so smart, are trying to decrypt. And so now they're making, and it's funny because I just finished that whole tirade about cyborgs. She just said in the show that she is cybernetically enhanced, not artificial. And so, you know, and also Detmer, the chick with Scarface cyborg implants, and her are like, yay, cybernetics, yay! Because we all know that everybody had cybernetic implants in the 23rd century. Why not? And it's like, is everybody in the crew in this episode, except for Pike and Spock, a girl? I just noticed this. It seems like everybody in this episode is female. Whatever. Okay, so Robot Chick is getting the glowing eyes again, and all of a sudden her personality has changed, and she's basically trying to give Tilly the cold shoulder when a minute ago she was Tilly's best buddy in the whole world. So, obviously, Tilly, being the observant person that she is, doesn't notice that there's anything odd about her best friend suddenly changing personality mid-sentence. But why not? Oh, and nice. And so now we got to add to the four-letter word fest that is Discovery, where we, and I quote here, Captain Pike turns to the Admiral as they're approaching Section 31 headquarters and asks her, again, direct quote, will you tell me what kind of shitstorm we are flying into? What was the point in that? Seriously, what's... All right, let me just continue on. So Cromwell is now showing them the detailed schematics of Section 31 headquarters because it's such a secret information that everybody can access the schematics of their headquarters. Their headquarters is surrounded by mines, which apparently are illegal until Deep Space Nine. And so they're going to have to probably navigate a minefield. Oh, no. I'm sure that'll be exciting. Oh, if Tilly bends over again, remember to pause it. I'll try to remember that for you. Quantum Leap says, yeah, S-Storm, this isn't Star Trek. Exactly. That makes no sense that you would have that. So Cromwell is basically saying that Pike is the single best captain in Starfleet, which I could kind of get behind because Pike, you know, obviously at this point is supposed to be a legendary character. And but and that's why the Enterprise was moved out of the war, was because they wanted to make sure that the best of Starfleet survived, rather than, hey, let's take the most advanced ship we have, at least the most advanced combat ship we have, and the best captain in Starfleet, and not have them in the war that we're losing when, you know, yeah. And BIRDOPREY says, come on, Data said, oh crap, in Generations, and no one complained. I complained about that big time. I mean, I know that the internet wasn't what it is now, but I could not stand that. I thought that was so wrong for them to do that. Yes, it was a funny moment, but to break the whole, you know, generally family-friendly thing around Star Trek by throwing in a 4-letter word as a gag for the robot to cuss, I thought was really stupid. I really do. I thought that was a jump the shark moment for me. But then let's talk about this thing. I mentioned this yesterday, and first of all, this thing is just one of the freakiest looking things ever. This, and I didn't even realize, I guess it's a female based on the body shape. But this thing looks like it belongs, if anything, in Star Wars, right? This thing looks like it should be holding a clarinet in the cantina playing a song for us. But I want to know, I mean, because since everything is about girl power, right? And we've been, and Mercer, you are not leaving this channel for a year. Sorry. I know this whole thing is about girl power. So, and please note, while it may sound funny, tee-hee-hee, but serious question, given what we've been seeing of Discovery. Are they taking the girl power thing so far that they literally want to put an alien with a vagina for a face? Is that why this thing looks the way that it does? Because I would literally, this creature looks like, to me, a woman that had a horrifically bad skin condition and her legs were turned inside out until it popped up like that, and that's its head. That's yeah. That this thing is just like whatever. So Pike is understandably touched by the fact that Cornwell thinks that he's the best captain in Starfleet. Oh, there is another dude. Although it's just random Asian dude that does communications or whatever he does. So now we get some more Burnham Spock action here. That could be a good thing, which I never thought I would say that. Oh, jeez. Okay, this is nothing major. This is nothing important. This is just one of those things. Shut up, Mercer. You are not leaving. So they pan around Burnham and Tilly's quarters, right? And the point is that Spock looks like he's making a snide comment about Burnham's lack of interior decorating. But then they pass by Tilly's bed, which you can see here. Now, of course, there's a couple of things to point out, but we could talk about the fact that, you know, we have the picture here of Burnham and Tilly that we saw in the short treks, but that's not what you want to focus in on. Is this globe right here. These globes are ridiculously cool. I have 3 of them right over here, thanks to Donald, who sent them to me. And now I feel horrible for having them because Tilly has one. All right, let's move on. I don't want to spend too much time on tirades today. We got to try to get through this bad boy. All right, so, and Burnham's side of the quarters, of course, looks like nothing. And Spock, again, being Spock, being a younger brother and and all that. I love it. He basically just points out that Michael Burnham seems to go out of her way to be mundane. And Michael Burnham tries to say she expresses herself through her work, not her choice of decor, of course. And Spock just says clearly. Yeah, Burnham has no style whatsoever. And that's kind of the core of the problem with this whole show, is that, at least in the first season, Burnham is nothing, but she has to be right all the time. And it's like... So Burnham wants to play a game of 3D chess with Spock. And... What? How does Vagina Lady put shirt hole through her head? I said the same thing about Maz Kanata. Her head can't fit through the neck hole. Oh, that's what you were talking about. Okay, I misunderstood you, Mercer. That's a good question. Well, the tunics seem to, like, they have that collar thing. I'm assuming that they wrap around or something. So, again... This is another example of writers not understanding what they're writing about, because what Burnham said to Spock, I might be paraphrasing a little bit here, but what she wants to play a game of three-dimensional chess because Spock is struggling with his grasp on logic. And so Burnham says, what better way to test your logic than to... Mr. Miles, oh, that's just wrong. I'm not going to read that. But what better way to test your grasp of logic than to play the game which it represents? What? The chess is not a game about pure logic. If chess was a game of pure logic, then if you knew the perfect strategy, you would be undefeatable. Chess is about strategy. Now, yes, logic plays a part in strategy, but as we saw in classic Star Trek episodes like the Galileo 7, is that logic in and of itself is not a winning strategy. So I think to suggest that chess is the ultimate expression of logic shows you that the writers, A, do not know what logic is, and B, do not know what chess is. Yeah, that makes no sense. And yes, Ryan, I think Burnham is the Red Angel, absolutely. Mercer, Spock versus Bortus in chess. Oh, I think Spock would kill Bortus in chess. Bortus would probably beat Spock in an arm wrestling match, though. Yes, but in this universe, chess is logic and sonar works in the vacuum of space. Very true, Starch. Very, very true. And by the way, don't forget, if somebody wants to get Super Chat number 10 later, we also find out that rainbows and music can fly through space. All right, so Robot Chick is doing something on the computer. Obviously, she's up to no good. Looks like that's a diagram from the giant ball from a few episodes back. And she's downloading something. Interesting that since the screen is reversed up here, you can actually see it clearly says downloading. So whatever she's doing, she's downloading something big. Brian says, person taking over section, Brian McFarland, 1, person taking over section 31, 2, Tilly, smartest junior officer, 3, Burnham going to be the captain, 4, robot cyborg taking over, 5, main admiral, 6, navigator, 7, helmsman, major roles, all female. Yeah, I don't understand what that is. And copyright do not know what Star Trek is. Or they don't know what copyright is, you mean? They demonstrated this in TNG when Troy beat Data in chess. I don't remember Troy beating Data in chess, but that would be ridiculously stupid just based on Data's intelligence, because it does require intelligence to play chess. All right, so let's continue on here and see what mess we dig ourselves into. Which, you know, here's the funny thing. And this kind of harkens back to what I said at the beginning of this. The most ironic thing about this episode is that I enjoyed the scene with Burnham and Spock, and now we have, yeah, this crap. And yes, BIRDOPREY, did you not look? The list is in the description below. You can, I think it's in the list. Isn't the list updated? Let's see. Oh, 10 has question marks there because I haven't updated it, but yes. Anyway, let's continue on. All right, so now, what's her name? Nan? Now Nan, it looks like she's a little suspicious of Robot Chick, so that's a good thing, because, you know, so, all right, that I think is a key line there. So she's, Robot Chick is talking to her, and she says she's looking for information for the decryption they're working on, and they're trying to decrypt the messages that were sent by Ash, even though they were really sent by her, which means that they're never going to decrypt them. And I don't know what you mean by you're decorated, Mercer, but okay. But she said that her memories, while her augmentations are very impressive, her memory is not infinite. So I think that's going to come into play somewhere. And also, what I don't understand is where's her brain? Because would it be that, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't your brain have to function for your personality and stuff to be there? So if she can't retain memories without storing them on a hard drive, what happened to her brain? And if her brain is that damaged that she doesn't have any space for memory, how is she functional at all? But yeah. So Resolute throws a couple of bucks in, says, number 10 for Bird. I could definitely use the break. So here you go, Bird. This is the ultimate truth about Discovery. Yeah. Oh, I forgot. I know, I gotta unmute it, so I'm just, hold on, I'll start it over here. There we go. There it is, the day that disco died. And BIRDOPREY is saying, don't overthink it. Well, I just think it. Oh, that's the newest one, BIRDOPREY. That just came out like a few days ago. All right, so kept calling her Nebula. All right, so. And actually, yeah, I remember I showed you this one first. I forgot about that. And by the way, there's another new one that's on its way. I don't know what it's about because Mrs. Antitricker and Joshua are putting together these super chats now in secret. So I don't get to find out ahead of time until I see it. All right, so. All right, Spock makes it. Yeah, Spock is what is the best part of that super chat for sure. All right, so let me continue on or else I'm not going to get through any of this, and we got to get through some more of this.
Your species is...
Oops, I forgot to mute. I know. All right, so Robot Chick is identifying her race. So yeah, she's pointing out that her augmentations on her face allow her to breathe the atmosphere, and so that's obviously going to come into play at some point. So, and it was red dot version of her, the evil version of her, or whatever. Yeah. How do I hear it if it's muted? I only mute what's going out to the live stream. All right, so just let me do this real quick for Mr. Miles. So there you go, Mr. Miles. I know that makes you happy. I just don't see why but yeah. And actually, Quantum, it is muted as far as I have two. The software that I use to actually do the streaming has two audio feeds. One is for the microphone directly. The other one is for the system sounds. And so what I do is I mute system sounds. So if you faintly hear a little bit of it, it's just because it's picking up from the microphone from my computer speakers. On the Discord feed, it's not muted at all, and so you can hear the show in its entirety. But yeah. But yeah, so Mr. Miles, if you should be happy, because there's your Tilly butt shot for the day. And I'm sorry, I mean, this won a marathon. And Mr. Miles throws a buck into the chat. You're welcome. And for the butt, yes. Robot Chicken is chicken. I keep saying chicken. That's her name now, Robot Chicken. So Robot Chicken is a sad character to me. If the shuttle accident caused this much damage, would you really like to live like that? No husband, kids, kind of like RoboCop. Yeah, it doesn't make much sense. It's like, if she is... So basically, only part of her brain survived. She's like 90% machine, and she has to go into her quarters every week and delete memories because her hard drive fills up. What the hell kind of life is that? You do see two guys. Okay, so yes, we see one. There's a guy. There's Pike, of course, and then there's, move my head. There's this guy over here. So yes, there are two men. Wow, what an what an incredible shot! Because there are half as many men as women in this shot. Wow, I'm totally impressed. Cornwell's the hottest chick on the bridge. Well, considering your choices are, you have Vagina Head, you have Tilly, you have Robot Chicken, and then you have Cornwell. Now. Yeah, I pass. I pass. Hard pass on that one. Oh, look. But we can't have the men have half as many as the women, so we have to have another woman come into the scene so that we can have the women be more than double the number of men. Cornwell liked Lorca more than Pike. Well, Cornwell slept with Lorca, but what she was saying is that Pike was the best captain. She never said Lorca was the best captain. So I think that's what we're talking about. Remember when Q came to Voyager, you asked if this ship of the Valkyrie, or have you human women finally done away with men altogether? I do not remember that line, but okay. You say, Dietmar is the strongest female character in STD, changed my mind. Well, she doesn't... Here's the only thing about that. What is her character? Tell me something about her, other than she can fly the ship. And she has, implants. She's not a character. She is a body. And that's the case, unfortunately, with most of the women and most of the men on this show. Captain Redneck says Captain Pike is the sexiest one on the bridge. Come on. Yeah, I'm on the right. There we go.
Ooh, Captain Redneck is on the bridge.
Anyway, Captain Redneck, good to see you. And so, what is anyone's character in STD if we're grading on a curve? Well, Pike and Spock are actual characters. Stamets and Hugh are actual characters. Saru is an actual character. But here's the problem. And this is actually hilarious. Those are all the men. So the writers make Pike, Spock, Saru, Stamets, and Hugh, the 5 men on the show, are the only ones that have any character traits. All of the women are completely generic. They have no personality traits whatsoever, except for they are awesome at something. Right? Michael Burnham, of course, being awesome at everything. Non being awesome at security. Robo Chicken being awesome at all things Robo Chicken-y. And Tilly just stupid awesome. And then Dietmar, awesome pilot. Right? But they don't have character traits. Oh, and Owa, of course, awesome navigator. But none of these women have character traits. None of them are personalities. They're all just things they can do. However, if you look at Saru, has had a real character arc. He's had some major changes to his personality, as has Hugh. Stamets is undergoing a major crisis, a personal crisis right now. Pike is going through a lot of personal crises and stress and trying to deal with the whole thing with Spock. And not to mention, you know, there's all the men have layers to them, and all the women are completely superficial, and yet the women are dominating the show. This channel should be renamed The Crawford Bitterness, The Final Frontier. But tell me I'm wrong. I didn't even think of this until this very moment, but tell me I'm wrong. Am I incorrect in my assessment that all the women on this show are completely flat, superficial caricatures at best, and all the men are actually characters? And I think you're right. You know, a few of you have said this already, but I think that the general consensus, and I tend to agree, is that it is kind of a Mary Sue type problem, is that you don't want to make them flawed, even though with Burnham, and that's the funny thing, is that Burnham is starting, and I just mean starting, to show a little bit of character with her interactions with Spock. She's showing weakness, she is showing uncertainty, and she is showing that, you know, and that's good. You need to put characters through the ropes. You need to break them a little bit in order to make them interesting. And so that's why I think that Burnham with Spock is good, but Burnham with anybody else sucks. Tilly, to call her flawed, but here's the stupid thing about Tilly. All right. Yeah, Tilly is a cartoon character. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Tilly is so ridiculously over-the-top stupid, and yet she's ridiculously over-the-top smart. But her personality is just, she's stupid but smart. That's her entire character. You can describe Tilly as being stupid but smart, and you've described everything about her. Tilly is Patrick Starr's daughter, yes. Yeah, but it's like if Patrick Starr had a child with Stephen Hawking or something. I mean, because on the one hand, she's going, ugh, and then she can figure anything out. Make up your freaking mind. And, you know, and I said this in the, last night, she is utterly incompetent, right? If you look at the way that she acts, she does not act like an officer. She has no confidence whatsoever. And she always requires someone to help her, right? Whether it's Robot Chicken or Michael Burnham or whatever, she always requires the help of somebody else. And why is she there? Why is she a bridge officer? Why is she an officer candidate training? It makes no sense. So, yeah. Yeah, she does kind of remind me of Rom from Deep Space Nine, but at least Rom had a personality. She doesn't have a personality other than she's, I mean, like, think about Rom from the early days of DS9 before they actually fleshed him out a little bit. That's what Tilly is. Tilly versus Roger Rabbit. That's an impossible to call one because they're both cartoons, so you can't really kill them. My cat's breath smells like cat food. Well, that makes sense, Mr. Miles. And Resolute says she's there for that. But look. I am not, everybody has their personal tastes and all that, right? And I'm the first person to say that I prefer women to not be ridiculously thin. That being said, Tilly just looks unkempt to me. So that's all I can say. And the thing is that whether a woman should be particularly thin or thicker kind of depends on their body type. Like Nan right here. I mean, you can see she is in, you know, I think that's a good size for her frame. She doesn't look too thin. She doesn't look too thick. She's not a particularly curvy person, but that's just her natural build. BIRDOPREY says, I missed a basic Simpsons quote. Okay. I'm sorry. Anti-checker is a Mocklin. I am not. And Captain Redneck, I'm not going to read that. I don't know about the last part of it, but whatever. Yeah, and her, but Tilly, yeah, just. They yes, they did. They actually, we just saw that scene, Mercer, where she is a, however you say, Barzan, or however you say it, yes. And she has implants to help her breathe. Well, I thought the others, they weren't implants, but whatever. Let's keep going. This can only get better, right? So she was suspicious of Robot Chicken earlier. Now Robot Chicken is hanging out with Tilly again. And let's... So Robot Chicken is asking Tilly to stay with her. I think that Robot Chicken is suspicious that there's something going on where with the other programming, because she's probably noticing she's having like flashes of memory loss or something like that. So if with that, so she basically saying to Tilly, stay with me no matter what. I need you here. And Tilly's like, but you got this. Wow, you're totally cool. And she's like, no, really, you need to stay. But you're so awesome. And she's like, no, you need to stay with me. So Tilly's like, yeah, okay, whatever. But you can tell Tilly is not taking her seriously. Nan is still looking very suspicious. So now they're dropping out of warp and they're surrounded by, well, there's a bunch of mines in front of them. Is that Nebula from the Thanos movie? Now, she does, if she was blue, she would look an awful lot like Nebula, though. And Thomas, I'm going to kick you out in a minute. Anyone else find it ironic that a man who broke his own chair and had to order a heavy-duty one is commenting on women's weights and body sizes? Bird, first of all, I never said I wasn't fat. I never claimed to have a beautiful body, right? I'm not, but I'm also not a professional actor. And here's the thing. Tilly, if the whole thing about Tilly is they want to have a larger woman on the show, I'm totally fine with that. That's not a problem. What I have a problem with is the fact that they try to make it out like she's some kind of super athlete along with everything else. Because if you remember, a couple of episodes ago, she was running in a marathon. Now, first of all, I don't believe for a heartbeat that Tilly could run a marathon and survive. But she was running a marathon. And they were almost to the end of the marathon. And then her invisible friend May shows up and stops her. So Tilly stops, with making it so that everybody else running the marathon leaves her in the dust. She talks to May for like a good minute or so. And then all of a sudden, drop out of warp is like dropping out of your pants. That's okay. Mercer, you're on today. Anyway, so she's like, she stopped for a minute or so talking to May, and then she begins running again and wins the marathon. So she catches up with all the people that had a good minute gain on her, and there was only like another minute left in the run. So she wins the freaking marathon and sets a new record. No! Please, can we just go for an ounce of realism? That makes no sense whatsoever. You don't take the one character who is clearly not in their physical prime and then make them the athlete. Okay, and with that, you know what that reminds me of is if you ever watch classic Saturday Night Live when John Belushi was a decathlon champion and he was doing a commercial for donut cereals, and he's like, "I've done a lot of trading and I've downed a lot of donuts," and he's smoking a cigarette and going, "Yeah, donuts gives me that sugar rush I need to compete," and then they show him like doing a pole vault and stuff. That's what it is. That's how stupid it is. Right. Mercer says Tilly is by far the most interesting character in Star Trek. You know, no, I was going to say something mean about Lore Reloaded, but I'll leave it. I was thinking about with his Lorca video, maybe Tilly would be like the the best female in all of Trek. Yeah, Mercer, what's with your caps lock? Is that stuck or something? Or are you just trying to get it so that I'll see your stuff? All right. Like showing a T-Rex doing push-ups. Yes, that's a good way to describe it. So there's a super secret path to fly through the mines, but you have to lower the shields to take the super secret path to fly through the mines. Yeah, why not? That makes as much sense as anything else. So now we go back to Burnham and Spock. Thank God we're back to Burnham and Spock. I never thought I would say that in my life. So, yeah, don't all put caps lock on. You're going to drive me crazy. So Spock is using an unorthodox strategy and sacrifices Rook apparently unnecessarily, and Burnham is like accusing him of trying to lose. So they're again, and this is good stuff. I mean, I wish you guys could hear all of this because their banter feels so natural, and that's what I mean. I gotta say, Ethan Peck really is. He could be the salvation of this show. I really would like to see a Enterprise show with Ethan Peck and Anson Mount. I would absolutely love that. Because both of them are really, really strong. The unfortunate thing is that they try to make this female-dominated show, but they don't know how to write female characters at all. I mean, that's the writing for the women on the show is so ridiculously bad. The only time it looks good is when we have scenes like this, where we have Burnham and Spock interacting directly. Is it just me, or do good Vulcans show a lot of emotion while they try not to? Well, it depends. Spock has shown emotion a bunch of times, but he also always has the half-human excuse. Why aren't they playing Calto? Because three-dimensional chess was Spock's favorite game. Remember, he used to play that all the time in the original series. And he even programmed the ship's computer to do it. But apparently, the ship's computer is, like, omnipotent now, so whatever. See, and their banter is so good. Like, Burnham is trying to accuse Spock of being out of character, and he's like, you haven't seen me in years. You don't know my character. And so, and no, I did not say women writers are bad. I said the writers of this show don't know how to write women. Don't twist my words around. I'm not BIRDOPREY. I don't say things like that. Oh, now Spock. See, this is where it's so good. Spock is just plastering it on the wall for Burnham, talking about all of her guilt, all of her shame, all of her posturing, which is based on her own arrogance. And he is 100% right. He is just laying it out and showing her how stupid she's been her entire life. And so I absolutely, I really like that. I don't know what's the heck is with the, what's with her hair, but yeah. And there you go. Thank you, Spock. Again, so remember the whole point of Burnham's What a great picture of Burnham there. The whole thing with Burnham, like where we found out her, you know, her dirty little secret about trying to be mean to Spock when they were kids, is that she was leaving the family because she was worried that the logic extremists were going to come after their family because of her. And Spock just said, "What are you? Why is everything about you? It's not about you. The logic extremists didn't like us because I am half human," which makes a whole lot more sense why the logic extremists would hate Spock than Burnham. Even though there's nothing logical about the logical extremists, and the logic extremist thing is like the dumbest concept that they came up with in this entire show. And there's a lot of dumb concepts on this show. But again, I said this last night, but I will lay it out very quickly for you. Logic is a binary. There is not something that is somewhat logical, and extremely logical. No, logic is a binary. Something either is logical or it is not. There is nothing in between. Something, you know, 2 plus 2 must equal 4. That is logic. 2 plus 2 equals anything other than 4 is not. It's that simple. Now, a logic extremist is just a person who would be logical. That's it. There's no fundamental concept of logic that would drive you to be what these logic extremists are being painted as, was basically racists and separatists and all this stuff. I mean, it sounds like, honestly, what they're trying to paint them as is what the writers of the show think of the American South, right? That they think that they're a bunch of bigots. But it makes no sense. Then why is everybody calling them logic extremists? And by the way, we found out yesterday that a logic extremist is running Section 31, and all of Starfleet is cool with it, apparently. Yeah, it's like a tall midget, yes. So, who committed the attack on the embassy on Vulcan in Enterprise? Well, I don't know if that was the logic extremists or not. I don't remember. But I just hate the concept. All right. If Trump said 1 + 1 = 2, CNN would try to prove him wrong. Well, that's a whole different thing. But yeah, but you understand what I'm saying. Logic extremist just does not make sense. Man, every time this Spock, even though he's showing emotion here, and by the way, this is something interesting that I kind of like, is we've seen classic Spock, and when I say classic Spock, I'm talking Leonard Nimoy original series, has just, without the influence of spores or anything like that, has shown emotion on a couple of occasions. One of the most notable and memorable is from Amok Time, when he finds out that Kirk is still alive, and he clearly goes over the top crazy about how happy he is that Kirk is alive, and then he catches his composure and continues on. And so Spock has this great bond with Kirk that can bring out emotion. We also know that he had such a close relationship with Pike that he would actually betray Kirk in order to help Pike. And so the fact that he has a strong connection with Pike, I'm okay with. Burnham is an interesting case because Burnham has a family relation with him. However, Burnham makes him angry instead of happy. And so we're seeing genuine anger here, but I buy it because I think that Spock and Michael are acting like brother and sister, and that she gets under his skin, even though everything he's telling her is completely true. And when he's putting her in her place, he's doing it incredibly well. Oh, yes, yes, thank you. Okay, this is one I got to show you guys. All right. So Burnham and Spock just had their little thing, and now Burnham is trying to leave in a huff, right? And Burnham is going to do, and I will tell you straight up that, you know, I have a sister, and we've had conversations that really, that very similar to this. But look at this, just look at this couple of seconds here and see how awesome and how real this relationship feels.
I thought this could be a new start for us. I really did. Clearly, I was wrong.
Yes, you were. We will never relate as equals so long as you attempt to assume every burden is yours alone.
Since we're...
That is so on the nose there. That is so perfect. And I really, you know, it's so funny that on this episode, I'm praising the stuff with Spock and Michael as opposed to the rest of the show, where in other episodes, it's like, I was just, please get Michael off the screen. And I know Michael's hair is whatever, but yeah, that hairstyle is not flattering. I don't understand why they're doing that, but yeah. But I really appreciate the fact that they feel like a genuine, that this feels like a real sibling fight. And so, yeah, this is actually good stuff. I wish that the entire series was more like this. Wow, and Spock is acknowledging his feelings. He says that you know, he admits that he's angry, and he actually enjoyed expressing his emotion. And he hits the chess set, knocking it over. Which, on the one hand, you might say, "Holy crap, that's over the top. That's crazy." But I'll bet you anything that Spock regains his composure momentarily, which would basically make it a great mirror to when he lost his control and gave Kirk a hug and then realized what he was doing. And yeah, it's funny because, yeah, that I think that is the hairstyle she had in the reshoot scenes. And that was really jarring in some of those episodes where her, where the reshoots had a different hairstyle. So yeah, it looks like, so Spock, after slamming everything around and stuff, instead of screaming and going crazy, he just, you know, pulls himself back together and leaves, and he's done. And Michael is left, like, devastated. But she has to go to the bridge and deal with something else. So yeah, that was probably the best scene of this episode. I really did like it. And here's the thing about Quinto's Spock. I didn't think Quinto was a bad choice. I mean, he looks the part, but he came across too much to me as he was a dick, kind of, you know, like in Star Trek 2009 when he's like, "Live long and prosper." That's not Spock, right? Spock's not going to be sarcastic. He's going to be direct with his emotions. And so and Quinto's Spock felt like he was just kind of a dick. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it was horrible, but I like Ethan Peck's Spock better. I really do. All right, let's keep going here. All right, so they're navigating the minefield, and of course Burnham comes up to the bridge because why not? So they can't scan the interior of the Section 31 headquarters. They say it's because it's a former prison. So, but they also said that it was a prison facility from 100+ years ago. Redneck says, that's the writing and tricker. I'm talking about the actor only. He did good for what he was given. Oh yeah, I'm not saying Quinto is bad. And don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on Quinto. I think for the material he was given, he did an admirable job. Quinto probably would do a great job with the material that is in this show as well. I'm just saying, I think Peck has that voice. That's what Quinto really, really lacked. Quinto had the look of Leonard Nimoy. He did not have the voice. because, you know, Leonard Nimoy has that very nice, well, had that very nice deep voice. And so, you know, yes, Captain, that is logical, right? That's how he was. And then you get Zachary Quinto. Yes, Captain, that is logical. And it's like, no, that doesn't sound, he looks right, but he doesn't. Every time Zachary Quinto Spock opened up his mouth, I was like, the voice is all wrong. Now, Ethan doesn't look as much like Spock as Zachary Quinto, but he sounds like a Vulcan. He's, you know, he has a deep voice. He has a very soothing voice. And I think that he is a much better match to the character of Spock than Zachary Quinto was. Not that Quinto did a bad job, but you can only do so much with what you are physically given, right? It would be like, I can't play a high-pitched voice character because I have a low-pitched voice. That's just a fact, right? And Quinto just doesn't have the voice of Spock, but Ethan Peck does. And it's funny because one thing that, and I'll go on a slight tirade here, nothing major, but one thing that is commonly talked about when people are getting into not podcasting, but vlogging and stuff like that, you know, YouTube stuff, is it is more important that you get a good microphone than a good camera. It is absolutely more important that you put your resources into sound than in the visuals when you're on YouTube. And the reason for that is that if you see something that looks crystal clear and beautiful, but sounds like crap, it just grates you the wrong way and you can't listen to it. If, however, you have something that has an average look to it but sounds really nice, then you will gravitate towards it. Spock, in my opinion, is a perfect example of this, in that in the Spock from this show doesn't look like Spock, but he feels like Spock because he's got a Spock voice and Spock mannerisms to him. Zachary Quinto looked just like Spock, but he didn't feel like Spock because he didn't sound like Spock and didn't act like Spock. Now, a lot of that, like Captain Redneck, you were saying, had to do with the writing, right? That's Kurtzman and JJ. But the simple fact is that it didn't, to me, feel like this was the same character as Leonard Nimoy played, where Ethan Peck, it does feel like this could be a younger version of the character that we saw in the original series. Unfortunately, in this super advanced, crazy universe that is not in no way, shape, or form related to the original series, except that it's called Star Trek. But anyway, let me move on. I only got a little bit of time left, and I do need to get past the halfway point of this episode. We will probably be finishing this episode tomorrow night, which, fortunately, this week there's no Orville, so it's not a big deal, but I thank you guys for putting up with me here. Mr. Miles says, hey, Trick, it depends on the purpose of the channel. Sub to many channels where a good camera is essential. Well, but here's the thing. Like, obviously, if you're going to do a channel that's about landscapes, right? You want to get good pictures of landscapes. You need to, and you definitely need to put together a nice visual presentation. However, there are channels that have, you know, way more subscribers than me, that all they do is show a still picture and talk, but it sounds really good, right? And it's a total package deal. I mean, you have to have interesting content, you have to have a personality, you know, and you also, and whatever your subject matter has to be compelling to the people listening to it. But if you have to make a choice between better audio and better visual, 99.9% of the time, the audio is the way to go. I like when Nimoy's Boston accent slipped through on occasion. Only all Vulcans had Boston accents. Yes, very true. So Burnham is clearly, look at her, she is clearly just messed up by Spock. And I like that they're actually punching holes in Burnham's perfection. They needed desperately to do that. Oh, hey, a guy got a line. Alert, a guy got a line. Okay, so now they're flying. Oh, come on! So, the mines... Okay, this makes less sense than anything else. The mines have spinning blades and cut into the hull? So they're raising shields, and the mines... Look at that! And so, and how are the shields working with... So they have spinning blades and cut into the hull, but don't do damage because of the shields, but they cut in... Uh-oh, and Robo Chickhead is going red again. And she's telling Tilly now to leave. And of course, Tilly, being the incredibly smart person that she is, does not think anything about the fact that her best buddy, Robo Chicken, just told her a couple of minutes ago that no matter what, stick by my side, and now saying, okay, leave. And yeah, and the mines are attracted to shields. That makes sense. They're Lucasfilm blades. Don't ask. Yes, thank you, Captain Red Dog. You're right. Unfortunately, yes, I can't take a shot. If I could, I would, but I got to work in a little while, so that would be very inappropriate. All right, so let's keep going. I'll go through as much of this as I can. They are called blade mines. They just called them blade mines. So they're going into a blade minefield. Somehow, I picture like a bunch of Wesley Snipes in space. You're going, some MFers got to ice skate uphill, and you know that's what we need. So the blade mines are buzzing around, and okay, and now Robo Chicken is downloading again. So whatever it is that she's trying to, so whatever she's trying to download, it's big. Either that, or they only have like a 56K baud modem on the Discovery. Yeah, Discovery is now Blade Runner. You Blade Runner. All right. So now they're trying to get Starfleet Command to tell Section 31 to stand down, which of course they're not doing. More blade, and the thing is, they're showing these mines up close. They are just physical blades. How would they? And why isn't Discovery shooting the mines? Do they not have phasers anymore? Did they just, like, get rid of them? Blackout mines? Oh, come on. This is just... What is this, a freaking video game? So now we have blackout mines, right? So level 1 was blade mines, where the mines literally just turn into saw blades and try to cut into the ship. Well, that didn't work, so level 2 is blackout mines. Now, this is the most incredibly specific EMP-like device we've ever seen in the history of science fiction, because blackout mines will only affect the navigation systems of the ship, but only the input data from the navigation. So while they're trying to fly the ship, but the controls say they're not responding, but then the Admiral says, no, the controls really are responding. They're just not showing that they're responding because of the blackout mines. So you can't see anything, but the controls work. So you just have to look out the freaking window in front of you to fly the ship. So apparently that's a thing now. And I wish I was making this crap up. I'm really excited to see whatever the next kind of mine is. You know, are they going to... They need to have anti-trekker mines where it just throws crap on your windshield or something. So... he tells Detmer to get the ship maneuvering, and Detmer's like, I'm doing my best, and Pike says, not good enough, this isn't a game. That's a good line from Pike. I like that. Someone says, I'm doing my best, and the captain just says, not good enough. So I like that, because it's like, Pike, I like the fact that Pike is a badass, but he's not an imitation of Kirk. I really do like his character. Oh crap, Burnham's about to save the day. Oh, I called it. I called it. So, and for those of you that were here, first of all, yes, bad line. So I'm sure you guys, there's a trope in writing that happens all the time, where someone will say something that makes another character think of something that's the solution to the problem. A great example of it done well would be from the movie Independence Day, when Jeff Goldblum's dad is concerned because he's like, get off that floor, you're going to catch cold. And that gives him the idea to create a computer virus, right? And so because cold virus, that actually kind of makes sense. So Pike says that, your best isn't good enough, this isn't a game, which isn't a bad line. And so Burnham's thing is, wait a minute, what if it is a game? And then she's basically saying, if the minds are being controlled by a computer, and the computer is trying to anticipate our moves, and we have to throw in chaos in order to fool the computer. Which, by the way, is exactly what Spock was doing to her when they were playing chess. Spock was throwing chaotic random moves at her, and it was driving her nuts. And I do think that's an interesting parallel, is that Burnham herself fell for what she's trying to get the minds to do. That's actually good. But this, but these are minds that are just closing in on the ship. I'm sorry, but minds are not that complicated. It's not a strategy to move through a minefield. You just need to avoid running into the mines. And if the mines are attracted to your ship and moving towards you, then there's that. But, and yes, Hector, this is what I'm getting to. She said the word chaos. And last night, when we started talking about control, I said that I was going to lose my crap if somebody says chaos in this episode. And so they actually did say chaos and control in one. Actually, they need to use chaos to get to control. Captain, we're being swarmed by mines. Mines? Well, would you believe a swarm of Klingon ships? No, I find that hard to believe. How about a pregnant space whale? I'm serious, that's what... Ugh. All right. Let's move on here. Radio Chaos was a good album. And so... And this is so typical crap from stupid writing. Is that, okay, so what Burnham suggests is that they need to do chaotic, unpredictable maneuvers, which, number one, makes no sense. Again, they're in the middle of a minefield. The logical, and I know logical, they don't understand what logic is, I get that. But the logical thing would be, if your ship is in the middle of the minefield, you just have all the mines converge on the ship, right? That's what you would do. However... Now, they're trying to say that, well, if they do unexpected maneuvers, the mines are going to get tricked into going to the wrong place. They're in the middle of a freaking minefield. The mines should all just attach to the ship. Bam, you're dead. But no, the mines have to anticipate your move. I don't. And so, oh, yeah, and so then... They need chaotic maneuvers, right? Now, what would they do in the original Trek? All right, and I'm not talking about Next Gen because this is really a best example. It's the original show. If Captain Kirk was in a situation and he knew the only thing they could do is to do random chaotic patterns of maneuvers in order to outthink the enemy AI, right? See, Kirk would say, Sulu, you know, fly like a freaking madman, right? He would say, you know, fly, you know, do random patterns, do anything you can, throw them off, and all that, right? And Sulu would be like, oh my, all right, Captain, and then he'd get to work, right? And I asked that already, Fred. Why didn't they just shoot the mines? There's no explanation to that. So the I mean, if they can freaking target Nomad from 200,000 kilometers away, why can't they hit a mine that's 75 feet away? Anyway, so what does he do? Pike is doing a round robin where he's like, okay, Saru, pick an evasive pattern. He's like, Delta 9. All right, and Dietmar, what pattern do you want? And so, and they're just having everybody pick random patterns. Sulu would walk, no, he would hug the donkey. That's what you're looking for, but yes. And you're right, Small Yoda. Yeah, best guess, Mr. Sulu. Fly like a bat out of hell. You're right. That is exactly what Kirk would say. And so, for some dumbass reason... Okay, so, you know, now the Admiral picks Pi Alpha 2. Because every maneuver in Star Trek... And this is something that I'm sorry to all my friends who are fans of the later Trek shows... And I'm not talking about Discovery. I'm talking about, you know, Next Gen on... This is a problem I had with a lot of the later Trek shows. Why is it that every maneuver has to have a freaking name? Right? In the original series, it was hard to port, hard to starboard, set course to 111 Mark 13, right? But then, in Next Gen, all of a sudden it became evasive maneuver Alpha 37. Like, that's supposed to impress us? How about you actually give commands to your maneuvers rather than maneuver Riker Alpha, right? And that I don't like pattern orders, right? If you're gonna give an, you know, instead I like orders that actually fill you in on what they're doing. Hey, you know, rotate the ship 87 degrees, hard, you know, then hard to port, then and you know, give the orders like you would give the orders. You know, and now granted, I never served in the Navy. I know that, I don't think Derek is here right now. I know he has. Maybe he could answer this. But last time I checked, if the captain is ordering a course change, he's not going to say, helm, execute pattern Delta 5. No, he's going to say 20 degrees to port. So, because Kirk had so many badass maneuvers, they need to name them all. Is that what it was? So they're all just doing Kirk. But the thing is, this is before Kirk, right? And I know it's a nitpick. I get that. But at the same time, it's just an annoyance to me because it doesn't make sense that you would use, if the whole idea, if Burnham's entire concept here that she just stated is that we need to do random maneuvers in order to fool the AI of these mines, which in and of itself makes no sense. But if that's your goal, using established pattern maneuvers is not random maneuvers. Does that make any sense? Because if I say execute pattern Delta 9, then as soon as the ship begins pattern Delta 9, won't the AI, because the AI is very, very smart, know, oh, that's Delta 9, so the ship is going over here. And yeah, joystick would come in very handy right now. So the mines impacting on the shield, I'll admit, that's a cool effect. I do, because they're using TOS era shields where the shields are right on the hull of the ship as opposed to a projected out bubble like we see in Next Gen. I kind of like that. That's actually kind of a cool, cool idea. So Burnham's picking Delta 7. Wow. Okay, and I don't know what happened, but it looks like Robo Chicken has just finished her download. And then she sent a message somewhere. And the mines have deactivated. So Robo Chicken deactivated the mines, apparently. Lieutenant Catan has used Directive 38 in the execution of this program. What? No bare feet in the engineering section? No, 38, the other one. Yes! Thank you. Fred, you're right. A control yoke with foot pedals would make a lot of sense on a ship like this. That's actually something that, I mean, all the way back to the original series, it's kind of bugged me about Trek, is the lack of real tactile controls. Because even on our large warships today, while they obviously don't maneuver nearly as quickly as even a starship, they have wheels to turn. For manual controls, at least. The base is a giant chess piece. So now they're talking to the logic extremist on the Vulcan base, or on the Section 31 base, and she's basically saying that, you know, screw them, they're all wanted, and Starfleet ordered them to attack, which I'm sure is probably a lie. And by the way, if the Discovery is actually commencing an assault on Section 31's primary headquarters, why are there no other Section 31 ships in the area? Why? What? You know, everything is fly-by-wire. Manual controls are outdated. Well, no, here's the thing, though, Bird, is that's true and not true. For example, the F-16, which I know is a little older, but the F-16 is a fly-by-wire jet. Everything was, you know, it's not manual controls, but you still have a flight stick, so that the pilot has that intuitive ability to control to control the plane. But, you know, you don't, just because it's a physical analog stick doesn't mean that the control is analog. It can be a digital control through an analog device. Think of, you know, when you play a flight sim game on a computer, and if you have a flight stick that you use, that flight stick is not sending analog data to the computer. It's sending digital data based on your analog movements. But the thing is like the way that they demonstrate it in Trek, it's not even pressing a button to go right and pressing a button to go left. It's more like, let me enter in the course that we're going to hit and execute. Okay, let me enter in a course we're going to hit and execute. There doesn't seem to be a button to turn left where there should be. During this era, Kirk would have ordered the hard to port starboard Z up, Z down, or direct coordinates bearing 421 mark. Yeah, exactly. That's what we should have. And Zachary's saying, yeah, Section 31 should be completely surrounding them at this point. So, yeah. So now they're accusing Pike and the entire crew and the Admiral of treason. And Saru looks like he's thinking of something. So our logic extremist is using logic to defeat them. And by the way, the whole stupid, here's the dumbest thing about all this. So their mission is to break into this the Section 31 facility to get to the computer called Control that literally controls all of Starfleet, and then reset Control so that Admiral Cromwell can get access to the system again because she got locked out. So basically, this whole thing boils down to Admiral Cromwell is butthurt because she got blocked by someone, and she's trying to get someone to go in and unblock her. And this is like, here's what I don't understand. So let's say they're successful. They beam onto the station, and assuming the station's not swarming with Section 31 agents that will just kill them on sight, you beam onto the station, you get access to the computer, you reset the access codes so that Admiral Cromwell can now again access the control computer. What's to stop Section 31 from then immediately locking them out again? How long until control needs Spock's brain? Yeah, brain and brain. It is the controller. So yes. This is like making less and less sense every minute. I am done with Michael Burnham being forced into the save the day position in every episode. Yeah, so Section 31 is Steve Shives and blocked her. So when Pike is sitting there going, okay, we need to get a landing team over there, and he goes to Saru. All right, Saru, and which makes sense. Saru is physically superior to humans, and he's also the first officer, and so it makes sense. Okay, Saru, get a landing party together, go over to the station, and we're going to get control. And Saru says, well, sir, I could help you better here. No other explanation. Just, I could help you better here. And so, rather than, now, of course, what Pike should have said is, really? Why is that? And then Saru could explain whatever it is. Because it did look like Saru realized something while they were talking to Vulcan Extremist. And so Saru could have said something there. I don't know what he's up to, but he could say, okay, well, you know, I'm investigating something about that transmission that seemed funny or whatever. And that would be fine, right? But no, he gives no explanation. Instead, Pike just turns around and says, okay, Burnham, you're up. So in one of the most thinly veiled excuses in history, now we're going to have Burnham lead the away team so that once again she can save the day. Because she has all the skills, you're right. Because it's freaking Burnham. All right, so Stamets is still working on the spore drive. All right, I gotta like this. So Stamets, this is really the first direct interaction of Stamets and Spock. And their personalities really don't mesh well. I mean, just thinking about it, it doesn't seem like that would make a lot of sense to have the two of them together. And so Stamets, of course, is a very passionate, emotional, intuitive guy, right? And he's working with this piece of equipment, and he's like, okay, come on, please don't shock me, right? Typical stuff that you'd expect Stamets to say. And Spock is like, you do realize that inanimate objects cannot talk. And he's like, oh, really? Oh, I didn't realize it. I mean, I like that. I like it's like, Spock is the anti-Burnham in that while in the first season, in the first half of this season, every time Burnham's in the room, it drags the episode down. When Spock is in the room, it elevates it. And so he makes all the characters better by being around him. So that's, again, this almost makes me think of some of the banter between Spock and McCoy. I could see Spock and Stamets having a really interesting relationship if they get to interact more on this show. So basically, Stamets is trying to fix the spore drive, shorts something out, power drops in engineering, and Spock console goes down. And so Spock turns to him and says, you know, this makes my work impossible, and I'm not being hyperbolic in saying that the entire fate of the galaxy is at stake here. And so Stamets like, oh, really? Well, I'll tell you what. I need to fix this conduit, get the spore drive working, and that'll restore power, and then maybe you'll be able to do stuff. And so, hey, I got an idea. Why don't you help me fix this, and then you can go do your thing. And this is really good stuff. I'm actually, man, I wish that yeah. And Mr. Miles, I didn't mean that kind of relationship. Jeez. Hector, where's Jet Reno? Apparently she's hiding somewhere, turning people's brains into robots or something. I don't know. And of course, Spock says fair point and is going to assist him in repairing the spore drive. Now, Spock, being as brilliant as he is probably going to be able to fix it in no time. So this is actually a very interesting scene because Stamets. Yeah, it's Fox even pointing, because they're trying to figure out why the Red Angel's coming after him, what makes him unique. He said he's half human, but which is unusual, but there are others like him. So, you know, why would the Red Angel pick Spock? And Spock has said he's exhausted trying to figure out a logical reason. Except that to me, the logical reason seems extremely obvious, and nobody is bothering to think of it because bad writing. And the reason is simple. What does the Daedalus refer to? Yeah, I don't know, because the Daedalus character from Greek mythology, father of Icarus, or the Daedalus class starship, neither of which seem to have anything to do with this, but maybe we'll find out by the end of this episode. But I doubt it, because we actually don't have that much time left in the episode. Anyway, but the obvious reason that the Red Angel picked Spock, and I'm sorry, this is, I will be surprised if I'm wrong about this. The reason that the Red Angel picked Spock is simply that the Red Angel is Burnham. You know, that the Red Angel is clearly a female form and about Burnham's size. And the unique thing about Spock is that that is, in fact, his sister. And that would be the logical explanation for it. So with that, though, I do need to wrap things up because it is getting close to work time, guys. So we will finish this tomorrow night. I apologize that I didn't get it all the way done, but this episode is just too painful for words. So yeah, there's that. Have a day or whatever. This sucks.